Hey everyone, PrinceBrightstar here, and we need to talk about what's next for Geralt. Despite originally wanting to get this out last year after finishing episode 2, I'm still pushing this out because there's important stuff we need to talk about, so let's get to it. While you might naturally think episode 3 would be next for us in our adventures in Geralt, that is a discussion we'll have, but before that there's some other things we need to address first. During the time episode 2 was running while the official servers were up, there was a moving comic series released by Sega. Though these have long since been taken down from Sega's servers, it still exists today as a video series here on YouTube. Chapters 1 to 5 take place before episode 2 begins, explaining why Ethan was being hunted, who Carl F. Hauser is, what Ethan learns of his father, why the cast suddenly began attacking people, and how Ethan got his outfit changed. Meanwhile, the final chapter runs concurrent with the events of Chapter 10 in Episode 2. I provided a link in the description where you can watch this series so you can learn more. Okay, next topic. During the run of the Universe servers, there were some quests that added additional lore to the story. The first, Innocent Girl, was a quest set as a precursor to Phantasy Star Portable on the Sony PlayStation Portable. This quest takes place sometime before the events of Episode 2, where you meet Laia. In this quest, you would guide the next generation cast Vivienne through the GRM combat simulator so they can develop their communication skills. Finishing this required 4 runs for full completion. Completing this quest on the Japanese side would allow you to import weapons into Phantasy Star Portable, however this functionality was removed in the US EU version of the game. There was also another quest called the Magashi Plan, which was released during the event called Shred the Darkness. During this quest, you were tasked with visiting Il Cabo and searching for Magashi, whom had been seen recently. Depending on your performance, you were able to ask Magashi one of several questions, including what copycasts are, what Magashi is, and what was wrong with Helga, who is a character seen in both this quest, the moving comic from earlier, and throughout Phantasy Star Portable. The reason I bring all this up is to say because Phantasy Star Universe Episode 3 was only told in the online mode, the entirety of the episode is lost media in terms of being able to be played, though videos exist. Through interviews, we did learn the team at Sega did want to create an offline version, but unfortunately this never happened because Ambition of the Illuminists didn't sell enough units. I started my story archival and commentary journey on this channel after the servers closed, and as such, I don't have access to my own recordings I can comment on, though I was there while the servers were live. Hard disk space back then was at a premium, and I didn't have the disposable income I do now. Even if I had video, it likely wouldn't have been better than 480p using the much older H.263 codec called XVID. Now, not all hope is lost for these quests. When the closure of the servers was announced, some players took it upon themselves to capture the network packets for the game. For me, it's unknown if the story quest packets were captured or not as part of the effort, and unfortunately, I've never been able to get a straight answer out of anyone I've asked. There are 2 possible sources that might be able to revive Episode 3. First, the fan server Phantasy Star Universe Clementine has made a statement on their FAQ saying that they don't have access to the quests. Now, that would be the end of things from Clementine had I not had a chance to speak with one of their staff members in an impromptu interview while they were hosting a raffle back in May of last year. As you can see, Marmosa is not sure themselves what's available, but they do want to make Episode 3 happen. Various other channels on YouTube have entire playthroughs of Episode 3, so it might be possible to replicate it using that as a starting point. There's a possible second source for Episode 3 as well, and this is the more interesting one. My apologies if I butcher this name. In 2012, Agrajag of psumods.co.uk stated they were working on an unofficial offline expansion for Phantasy Star Universe called Despair and Hope. Despair and Hope was the name of Chapter 1 in Episode 3. In its present form, several new missions have been added to the offline game, and in the section for things to expect in the future, they list the story missions. However, it's been 12 years since that initial post, and the last time they've addressed this thread was in 2016. They posted on the old Clementine forum that they were going to move the Episode 3 Despair and Hope project from PSU mods to the Clementine forum, but that never happened, and this was back in 2019. The really interesting thing about Agrajog is that they also have a GitHub codebase called the Phantasy Star Universe Toolset, and included in that, amongst other things, is a tool called the Mission Builder. I've never tried this tool myself, but it sounds like exactly what we'd need to recreate the story missions. Agrajog's GitHub was last updated in 2021, so there's at least some fairly recent activity on it. Even if Agrajog never finishes their expansion, it's my hope that one day we will see Episode 3 playable again. I'll also mention that included with the PSP Best version of Phantasy Star Portable in Japan was a video that summarized Episodes 1 to 3. This video is untranslated at the time of this recording, but I provided a link to it in the description below. I'll update this link if I ever learn that it does get translated. Leave a comment below if it has, please. All this is to say, given the situation at this time, I am unable to properly cover Episode 3. This means the next time we visit Garal, barring one other video I have planned taking place at the end of the timeline, it will be to go through Phantasy Star Portable, which begins sometime before Ethan Weber was hunted as a traitor to the Guardians, and will be with a different character than the Guardian we've been playing in Ambition of the Illuminus. However, before we finish today, I can at least provide a brief summary of the events that took place in Episode 3 to cover the gap, and this will be key knowledge for some of the things we'll see in the Portable series. In the event any of these story missions become available to play, I will cover them here on the channel, removing this video when all have been completed, as it will have served its purpose at that time. This summary will be interspersed with what cutscenes are available, but I'm unable to provide in-mission visuals, so this will just have to be my voice. It also won't cover the subplot events, as those require discovering what triggers them in the first place by the player. I'll save them in the hope one day we can play Episode 3 once again, but much like in the video I released fairly recently regarding how I'd fix PSO2 NGS, Episode 3 subplot also changes certain events. That said, Episode 3 kicks off with a report from Garal Channel 5.
Hi! Garal Channel 5 Headline News. I'm your newscaster, Hal. Today's big story is right here. 3 months have passed since the Guardians' colony fell. While the destruction caused by the Illuminus, as well as scars from the Seed invasion, still remain. Construction continues on the residential blocks that escaped disaster. Some of the surviving Guardians have resumed working independently. But there has yet to be any announcement of who will succeed the Guardians' late president, Obel Dalgan. Naturally, there has been much speculation in regards to this subject. In other news today, we have the devastation to the planet Perum caused by the impact of the Guardians' colony as it fell has been estimated to be approximately 3 times that of the Melvor explosion. On Motube, in a reaction to the large-scale killings of citizens infected by the Seed virus, there have been continuing race riots in the cities, and the Trade Federation has disappeared, resulting in total anarchy. Conflict between the 4 prominent rogue families has only added to the chaos that already exists. On the other hand, on New Days, the Communion of Garal has developed a new type of lattice shield system. This device protects the ground from Seed attacks, and thus far, New Days has managed to avoid any irreparable damage. However, the Communion is revealing nothing publicly about the shield system. And other planets and groups are becoming increasingly vocal in their criticism of the Communion's secrecy. It remains to be seen what they will do next. This is Garal Channel 5 Headline News, signing off. I'm your reporting newscaster, Hal. Bye-bye!
Chapter 1 has the player join Maya searching for the missing Laia, while also helping to train up Lumia, Ethan's sister, who had also joined the Guardians. Arriving at Old Rosenam City, 50,000 people died in the crash of the Guardians colony. The people in refugee camps that survived the Guardians colony crashing into the planet are starving and blame the Guardians for what had happened. After escaping one of the refugee camps, the group finds Laia, but they state they won't be going back to the Guardians. A group of out-of-control casts assault the party as they progress through the city to help return a girl to their refugee camp that was also assaulted. Laia doesn't believe Lumia is capable of being a Guardian, but Lumia stands up to her. Ethan then makes his presence known. Ethan tells Laia that only she can inherit President Dalgun's legacy of peace and become his successor as the head of the Guardians. As part of this, Laia is presented with some cleaned-up communications from the final moments when they were speaking to Dalgun. Ethan goes off to look for his father again. Back on the Guardians colony, Laia agrees to become the president of the Guardians.
Hi! Garage Channel 5 Headline News. I'm your newscaster, Hal. Today's big story is right here. A new Guardians president has been chosen in the wake of Obel Dalgun's untimely demise. Guardian Laia Martinez has been elected to follow in her late father's footsteps. In a press conference earlier today at Guardians headquarters, she declared that her goals are to defeat the Illuminists and exterminate the Seed. She also fervently stated that the restoration of the Guardians is a major priority. Ms. Martinez is the adopted daughter of the former Guardians president, Obel Dalgun. She is known within the Guardians for her bravery and for taking initiative on the front lines. She has also been trusted and relied upon by her former peers. Many look forward to watching her seize the torch that has been passed on to her. This is Garage Channel 5 Headline News, signing off. I'm your reporting newscaster, Hal. Bye-bye!
Chapter 2 also begins with a report from Hal.
Hi! Garage Channel 5 Headline News. I'm your newscaster, Hal. Today's big story is right here. Shortly after her inauguration, the new Guardians president, Laia Martinez, directed restoration work to begin on the vector tracks. This prompt action was looked upon highly by those involved. On the other hand, Ms. Martinez is trying to get other groups to cooperate in the fight against the Seed, but they have been slow to respond, and discussions have been inconclusive. At the root of their hesitation may be a distrust of the Guardians. Many criticize the Guardians for their ineffectiveness in dealing with past threats, such as the Illuminists and the Seed. The rebirth of the Guardians hasn't been all smooth sailing, and experts say they are at a crucial stage in their reconstruction. This is Garage Channel 5 Headline News, signing off. I'm your reporting newscaster, Hal. Bye-bye!
In a conference with Guardians, the group including Laia listened to a reply for an alliance by the group going by the moniker New Rogues. They state that they no longer recognize the police authority of the Guardians and have voted to cease all negotiations with the Guardians, nor will they work with any government. Laia states they'll go visit these new rogues in person. Lumia also joins us on this mission. The group arrives at the new rogues' hideout, and after making their way through some traps, they arrive where the leader, Alfred Tyler, is. A fight against them breaks out, and despite bringing them down, they still refuse to work with the Guardians in retaliation for the beasts that didn't get a seed virus vaccine. Lena appears and states there's trouble on the North Continent. The new rogues leave and the Guardians chase them. Once inside the Northern Continent, the Guardians find the Vole brothers frozen, along with Alfred. A Dirole begins causing an earthquake, and the player, Laia, and Alfred take it down. After the battle, the group finds out the Vol brothers are okay, and then Laia and Tyler hash out where the limits of the new rogue's power is. Presented with this, Tyler agrees to unite with the Guardians. However, this conversation is interrupted by the discovery of a new seed hive. Chapter 3 begins with Laia returning to the Guardians colony to learn more about the hive. It turns out this hive is as large as a planet. We meet with Laia, Hyuga, and Maya. During discussions, the topic of New Days' lattice shield comes up, and that Laia and the player had stumbled across it in episode 2 while chasing Ethan. Laia returns to her duties, and Lumia and Hyuga join us on New Days. Hyuga doesn't seem like himself, but there's no time to discuss it. To get inside the communion of Geralt, they sneak in while the guards are heading inside. The group is quickly discovered and begin running through the facility. They eventually find the lattice shield system, along with Ethan. Ethan states he wants to rescue the Divine Maiden Karen Era, but he can't do it alone. It's discovered the LSS works by sacrificing the energies of people with strong photon energies. The Maiden is growing weaker, and the energies of others within the communion are being sacrificed to compensate. During this conversation, Hyuga begins to turn into the seed form that was seen previously at the Sochi facility and on the Guardians colony. Taking him down, Hyuga reverts. The group is about to leave Hyuga, but Hyuga is still being controlled, and he begins breaking the LSS, and native creatures escape from the research labs. The group arrives at the LSS power room. Rutsu confronts the group, accusing them of destroying the LSS. Ethan states his intention to rescue Karen. However, Rutsu informs him that she has not been awake for the past 3 months, putting herself in the machine during the attack to protect New Days. Rutsu summons the Alterops Gog, but it is defeated. Karen appears awake, stating she was aware of what was going on while she was inside the LSS. She waited until Rutsu understood that people outside the communion and New Days shouldn't be ignored. Understanding he didn't know what the Maiden wanted, he offered up his title. But Karen told him not to abandon his position. The group calls Laia and tells her about Hyuga. Rutsu is put on the line with Laia, and they state they'll provide the technology behind the LSS to the Guardians and vow to stand with them against the Seed and the Illuminus. Karen states that in a recent vision, they learned another unification point is approaching. Laia mentions the planet-sized hive that was found, closing out the chapter. Chapter 4 begins with Fullion Kurtz almost attacking the Guardians' reception area. Discussing this in the lab, it's decided the Guardians will pay a visit to the mother brain of the AMF that allows them to act as one. Lu and Maya join us, Maya being able to lead the way due to being affected by A-photon waves. Mother Brain sends the AMF units against the Guardians. Reaching the main computer room of the AMF, we find Hyuga not themselves again, along with Carl F. Hauser. Hyuga turns into a seed form. The group takes him down, and a vaccine is administered. We bring Hyuga back to the Guardians colony. Kurtz is back to himself, and he agrees to take Lumia and us to where Mother Brain is so we can destroy it. Working our way through the facility that looks similar to a seed hive, Mother Brain falls shortly, freeing the AMF from the A-photon waves. Back at the Guardians colony, Kurtz agrees the AMF will have the Guardians' backs. In Chapter 5, Laia informs us that the location of the Illuminous Sochi base has been located. However, tragedy strikes as it's learned the headmaster Knave has passed away. Knave had fallen with President Dalgun when the Guardians colony crashed into Peru. However, he never woke from that. Laia wants us and Lu to infiltrate the Illuminous base and disable the explosion induction system so they can be detonated safely. In this moment, a voice says they should go as well. Headmaster Knave has awoken, meaning reports of his death were premature. He ends up taking the place of Lu. The player and the headmaster arrive at the Illuminous base, and they quickly meet up with Ethan. Ethan informs the group his father was a spy in the Guardians for the Illuminus. However, Dalgun believed him to be a true Guardian. The group arrives at the central command room. The headmaster has trouble disabling the Sochi and calls Lu. Lu finds the code necessary to disable them and runs it. The headmaster inserts a remote detonation code. However, multiple copies of Magashi barge in on the call. Taking them down, the party learns communications are being scrambled, preventing remote detonation. The headmaster agrees to stay behind to activate the detonation. However, Ethan wants to find Hauser, and so the plan changes to simply making sure the Illuminus can't activate the Sochi. Ethan and Nave stay behind while the player makes their escape. The Guardians are preparing a missile strike on the Illuminus base, so time is not on the party's side. Hauser calls offering a trade. The cancellation codes for Ethan and Nave. The player and Lumia go to rescue them. Inside the Illuminus base prison, they come across a man going by the name Obel, being held captive and release him. The group only has 12 minutes to arrive at their next destination before the missile strike hits. The group finds Ethan and Headmaster Nave. It turns out that Obel was actually Orson Weber, Ethan and Lumia's father. However, Hauser appears and attacks the group. After a tough battle, the group succeeds in ending Hauser. However, he gets back up, and Orson fights back. They strike at each other at the same time, Orson being victorious. In his final moments, he said he committed atrocities, but found a friend in Dalga. The chapter ends with Hal.
Hi! Garage Channel 5 Headline News. I'm your newscaster, Hal. Today's big story is right here. The Guardians, led by their new president, Laia Martinez, have successfully destroyed the Illuminus base. It was believed that the A-photon chain reaction bomb, the Sochi, was being mass-produced at the base. The Guardians report they have successfully neutralized all devices. As a result, it is believed that the Illuminus have been completely wiped out. An investigation is underway of the GRM Corporation, who have avoided legal action until now, despite allegations of ties to the Illuminus. The current president and their upper management have been taken into custody. Management is now in the hands of the heir of the founder of the company, who had been uninvolved up to this point but is now the largest known shareholder. Hugo Wright, who is currently in charge of operations, is gaining worldwide attention. In other news today, we have... Investigations are underway of Rycross, an enormous planet-sized hive in orbit around the Sun. Experts believe it has been emitting seed that have been attacking the Sun. Professor Tom Rain from the Guardians investigative team returned yesterday. According to the professor's summary of the investigation, the interior of Rycross contains a device that resembles a fourth confinement system. Otherwise, few details have been released. This is Garage Channel 5 Headline News, signing off. I'm your reporting newscaster, Hal. Bye-bye!
The Guardians have a meeting with President Laia. First, she praises them for their success against the Illuminus. Following that, they discuss what's next regarding Rycross, and Laia gives an order. Go pick mushrooms. The reason for this order goes back to a summit several hours earlier. It was determined during the event Maximum Attack G, a fourth confinement system exists on Rycross. The planet itself may be artificial and created by an ancient civilization. If that confinement system is activated with the other three, it may finally bring an end to the seed presence in Garal. However, just using A-photons may be insufficient to power everything. Regular photons could still be considered, however. Installing LSS photon generators would do the job, but they'd need 100 of them. It seems impossible to hit that goal from a monetary standpoint. However, as an alternative idea, another resource could be used. A type of mushroom that contains concentrated photons grown on new days. This would lower the number of generators needed down to around 70. Laia grants the player a full instructor's license, and leaves Lumia in our hands to determine when she's fully a Guardian worthy of the license. The player, Lumia, and Ethan go together on their portion of the mushroom hunt, as over 800,000 kilo units of them are necessary. Maya also wants to head to New Days, and so they decide to tag along as well. During the mission, Lumia and Maya step away while the Divine Maiden arrives to join Ethan and the player, Lumia having the idea to get Ethan and Karen on a mushroom hunting date. The player would feel a third wheel here, except Karen and Ethan were listening in on what Lumia and Maya just told the player. It's here the topic of photon poisoning comes out. There's enough photons concentrated in the air that it can be toxic if exposed for too long. The group needs to reach Block 3 within 20 minutes. Collecting mushrooms along the way, the player, Ethan, and Karen arrive and take a break to shake off the effects of the photon poisoning. While resting, a Rappy Gug attacks the group. Following this, Laia orders the group inside a relic site to help set up the generators. It's here the party meets up with Lumia, Maya, as well as Hyuga. Laia calls in scolding Lumia for ditching the player and punishes her with cleaning the toilets on the Guardians' colony, forcing them to leave the group. The rest of the group head for where the confinement system is and discuss Hyuga being related to the founder of GRM. Meeting with Professor Tom Rain, even with the mushrooms collected, they're at the minimum of resources needed to pull off the plan. Seed forms are being drawn due to the A-photon reactors in the area, so the player, Ethan, and Karen go to fight them back. After taking out 150 of them, the group heads back, and after a brief discussion with Rutsu, a group of Stateria attack. After this, Ethan and Karen agree to stay behind on New Days to protect the system. Between Chapters 6 and 7 is when the Shred the Darkness event took place, which featured the Magashi Plan mission discussed earlier. Chapter 7 opens with information from Hal.
Hi! Garage Channel 5 Headline News. I'm your newscaster, Hal. Today's top story, Fungus Among Us. Do you know what this is? This odd little mushroom may be good for more than just your salad. This special fungus contains a high concentration of photons and is found only in a certain region of New Days. As they are effective in raising the output of the Lattice Shield System photon generator, the Guardians are currently involved in large-scale harvesting of these special mushrooms. However, while the setup of Lattice Shield System photon generators is proceeding favorably, the photon recovery from these harvested mushrooms is below the targeted amount. As of now, it is too close to call whether or not the confinement system can be completely activated with adequate photon energy in time for the unification point. In other news today, we have... Today, a general meeting of stockholders was held at the GRM Corporation. Majority stockholder Hyuga Wright was elected as president of the company. At the meeting, Mr. Wright stated that he would resort to drastic reforms to rebuild the company. However, no specific policy has been mentioned at this time, and Mr. Wright's moves are being watched closely. This is Garage Channel 5 Headline News, signing off. I'm your reporting newscaster, Hal. Bye-bye!
Things begin on MoTube with Professor Tom Rain joining the player to set up the Lattice Shield System photon generators there. However, in attempting to reach Tyler, Professor Tom Rain is attacked by rogues stating that they don't believe in the plan and are sick of being pushed around by Guardians. That's when the Vole brothers appear and scare those rogues off. Coming back, the Vole brothers agree to take Professor Tom Rain, while Leogini and Tonio appear and join the player inside the relic site on a different path. It's later learned the Doctor was attacked by a seed form, and the group meets up with them. Lena also appears and scolds the Vole brothers. Professor Tom Rain forces himself up, but Tyler, who has also joined the conversation, suggests calling Laia. It's agreed that the Guardians will take over protecting the Professor from here. Shortly after this, Tonio and Lena discuss Tyler. Lena says she could never be Tyler's true partner. Tonio suggests Lena quit the rogues and partner with himself instead. However, they failed to realize the comms were open, so everyone just heard what happened, and Laia barges in, letting them know. Things done on MoTube, the player and Tom Rain return to the Guardians' colony. Maya presents news that another 35 Lattice Shield System generators were able to be procured through a donation from GRM via liquidating assets. The generators and mushrooms combined should put them 40% over their goal. GRM is also providing the technology to link the lattice shield systems to activate together at the same time rather than having to do it manually. The player, Lumia, and Tom Rain are off to Perum for the next LSS generators. Laia also joins them there. Lumia is ordered back to the Guardians' colony to help Lou, while Laia will take over her role. Fullion Kurtz appears asking to help with an energy pipe that's being attacked. The player, Kurtz, and Laia head out. Upon arriving, they connect to Lou to try to get in contact with the control room. However, due to a seed attack, all Guardians within the vicinity are dead. Laia says it's a race for whoever gets there first to activate the system. It ends up being activated by someone else. However, in the discussion after, Laia says the player is ready to become the chief commander of the Mobile Defense Force of the Guardians. A Duragnus attacks the three. Lou calls after the battle and states that no one has claimed activating the system and no one was around it to activate it. It turns out it was the Doctor that somehow made it through to activate it, and he perishes having fulfilled his mission. Chapter 8 begins with a broadcast from Hal as well.
Hi! Garage Channel 5 Headline News. I'm your newscaster, Hal. Today's big story is right here. The emergency funds provided by GRM have boosted the LSS photon generators deployed at the confinement systems by nearly 30%. A system to automatically link them during the unification point has also been put into place. In order to activate the fourth confinement system that has been reported to exist on the planet-sized hive Rycross, numerous Guardians, as well as the Divine Maiden from the Communion of Goral, have been put on the job. The entire Alliance military fleet will be escorting the Maiden in a large-scale operation that has rarely been seen in recent years. This is Garage Channel 5 Headline News, signing off. I'm your reporting newscaster, Hal. Bye-bye!
After a brief meeting with Laia, the player along with Mina head to the Landil. Lena was put in charge of the MoTube site, and so the Vole brothers will be joining the group going to Rycross. From the Guardians are also Ethan, Huga, and Lumia. Karen is also going to Rycross. The group arrives on Rycross, the area looking like a relic site. The discussion turns to the purpose of Rycross, and it was to be a fortress in the ancient battle against Dark Falls, an evil god that appeared from outside the Goral system. Dark Falls is the creator of the seed. The ancients built the 4 confinement systems, and while the unification point during the confinement war was successful, Dark Falls survived by feeding off A-photon reactors from Rycross' system. Because of this, they must use photons instead of A-photons in this unification point. The name was no coincidence given each hive was run by a Dulk Facus. Ultimately, there are 3 areas to be covered. Area A is covered by the player, Ethan, and Karen in order to get to the control room. Area B is covered by Lumia, Huga, and Tylor. Area C will also be covered by them once Area B is secure. Meanwhile, the Vole brothers will stay behind to protect the Landil and provide backup for the other squads. Eventually, the player, Ethan, and Karen arrive at the control room, and all of the LSS generators are activated. unification point is achieved, however the group is attacked by Dark Falls. After the battle, Tyler calls and lets the group know Rycross is about to collapse. As the escape starts, a part of the room comes down, trapping Ethan and Karen inside. The player escapes Rycross. Those aboard the Landil learn what happened to Ethan and Karen. Suddenly, something catches Huga's eyes.
Huh? This is... Karen. Karen!
Ethan... Where are we?
I don't know. But you... At least we're alive.
What's this all about?
It's Mire.
Mire! The seed's darkness is gone. And the girl system is saved.
That's great news.
Yeah. So, you're done now. Time to go home. Ethan, look!
Huh? The Landil! Everyone. They're all right.
I'm so glad.
What we've always fought for, I'd gladly do it again. For you and all our friends.
And that's the end of Episode 3. Again, there are several subplots throughout Episode 3 that allow you to change certain events and to learn more about what's going on, but I'll only cover those if we ever get these missions back. In the meantime, in the description, I've put links to playlists for others that did cover this content back in the day if you want to see all of Episode 3 play out. Lastly today, I'm going to present you with the credits from Episode 2. I cut these out because I knew this video was coming and it would be easier to just present them to you now with the understanding of the situation. With all that said, thank you for joining me. This is PrinceBrightstar signing off. I'll catch you next time.